We're going full Tater. Not one, but two Buffalo Trace barrel proof bourbons. That's right. I haven't had either of these this year. This is Stagg Junior Batch 18. Correction, Stagg 18. That's right. The Junior is gone if you haven't heard yet. Also, we have the 2022 Colonel Taylor barrel proof, which is better between the two. And also, is the Stagg Batch 18 better than my favorite batch of all time? Stay tuned. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C, and welcome back to the Mash and Drum. Like, subscribe, do all the things to help grow the channel. Really appreciate it. Today, like I said, these two Buffalo Trace barrel proof bourbons are usually one of the most sought after on the market, especially when people can't get the Buffalo Trace antique collection. So I was lucky enough to get both. This is a borrowed bottle from one of my great patrons, and this one I was lucky enough to get on my own. Let's start with the Colonel Taylor 2022 barrel proof. So this is batch number 11 for the Colonel E.H. Taylor barrel proof. Comes in at 129 proof on the dot. Last time we saw 129 proof, you got to go all the way back to batch number 3. So the idea is we've got a barrel proof version of Buffalo Trace's Low Rye #1 mash bill. This makes bourbon fans immediately think about George T. Stagg, which is also a barrel proof bourbon from that same recipe. The difference in this is obviously the aging process. Colonel E.H. Taylor Jr. barrel proof is non-age stated, but said to be likely around 7-8 years old, while George T. Stagg is usually about 15 years old, or even sometimes older. MSRP for this is 75 bucks, but we all know that's kind of a joke. It's rare to find this for retail whenever you run into it. So let's dive in here. I'm pretty excited to try this. This is one of my favorite releases they do each year. When I could get one, I'm not gonna spend time comparing it to years prior, just because I think this is usually pretty consistent. There are folks that even say, you know, this should be part of the BTAC lineup, but I just don't think it's old enough. But let's dive in. So normally these are very apple cinnamon to me, but this one is a little bit darker. I'm getting like chocolate and raisin on this one, just kind of nice. I love the toffee / butterscotch note you get in Colonel Taylor as well. When it comes to Buffalo Trace stuff, normally when it comes to Eagle Rare, Stagg Junior, Stagg, whatever you want to call it, it's going to take a while for me to get used to that. It gets into like those like grape / cherry notes, and I always felt like Colonel E.H. Taylor barrel proof was the outlier in that aspect, because I think this leans more towards butterscotch and toffee and some of the notes that I think folks associate with Colonel Taylor and some of those flavor profiles from, you know, back when that guy was distilling some bourbon. Man, I get heavy cinnamon, chocolate, and almost this raisiny molasses note that's in there, which is really nice. Usually to me, I just get a lot of apple cinnamon, but this has some really deep, rich flavors in it. A little bit of like a almost burnt pastry crust in there too, a little bit. But so far, so good on the nose. Nothing that's making me say, wow, this is the most different version I've ever had. Let's give it a try. Super oily on the palate. But this one being 129 proof, this drink's a little hot for 129 proof. This is definitely, you could feel all that burn. All those flavors I was talking about, you definitely get on the palate. There's a very rich spiciness to this. And I don't think, I mean, this is a very low rye bourbon, so I think this is just all proof. It's really coming off very hot and spicy. But what I will say is everything that's up front on the palate that I was mentioning when it comes to the viscosity, that sweet, like that confectionery punch of flavor you get right in the front of the palate. Then it kind of leans into the cinnamon chocolate, and then right before all that heat hits, this chocolatey, raisiny type note comes out, along with that butterscotch and toffee mix. I very feel much like the palate is matching the nose. Take another sip here. Yeah, as your palate gets used to it, there's still some sharpness to it. Obviously, they don't tell you the breakdown of what the age is in the bottle. It's NAS. But it is drinking a little bit younger than some other batches I've had. Again, this is a fresh pour. It might need a little bit of time to open up. But some of the, usual flavors that I normally get in Colonel Taylor Barrel Proof are always there. I do think it's a little bit more chocolatey forward than batches I've had in the past, like almond butter crunch, like chocolate, toffee, maybe some almond in there too. And it's just laced with like just a ton of cinnamon, like cinnamon Red Hots. Yeah, I wouldn't really see this as a BTAC release because of the age. If you've gotten a chance to try William Llewellyn or George T. Stagg, even though those could be high-proof whiskeys, high-proof bourbons, I really feel like the flavor just kind of stops right here in your throat. You feel it all on the sides of your tongue. Whereas this, you get all that flavor, but you really start feeling it in your chest. So I think those bourbons are a little bit more refined than what you get here. But last sip. From what I remember, I could say this is probably not as good as some other batches I've gotten in the past. Some of those were a little bit sweeter, a little bit more apple cinnamon forward. This one, I do like the chocolate and the raisin parts of it, but man, it is drinking hot for what it is, and I don't usually get that off of Colonel Taylor Barrel Proofs. But yeah, it's still a delicious bourbon. I mean, there's no way around it. It's one of the most sought after barrel proofs every single year. If you're lucky enough to get one, whether at retail or get one for a decent price. All right, so let's see if the Stagg Batch 18 is gonna be better than this one if I like it a little bit more. But before we do that, today's sponsor is Shaker and Spoon, a great last minute holiday gift. Let's make a rye cocktail from a new box I just got. Need a last minute gift for the holidays? Look no further than Shaker and Spoon, the must-have cocktail subscription that can teach anyone how to make high-end bar quality cocktails from recipes designed by award-winning mixologists. Every single box gets built around one singular spirit. It could be bourbon, rum, rye whiskey, and more. Each box includes all the ingredients other than the alcohol for about 12 cocktails, give or take. So you don't have to run to a bunch of different stores looking for the right ingredients for a cocktail that you might have read about. Now, whether it's you or someone you gift this to, Shaker and Spoon gives you these recipe cards in each and every box that guide you through crafting each cocktail step by step. Let's make a high-end cocktail using rye whiskey, perfect for this time of year. Let's try a new spin on a cocktail icon with the Homestead Old Fashioned. All right, so I already have 2 ounces of my rye whiskey in the glass. All I have to do next is add some winter spice syrup. That sounds delicious. All right, so ½ ounce of winter spice syrup. Oh, that smells amazing. 3 dashes of black pepper bitters. 3 dashes of orange bitters, and then mix. Add your ice to the glass. Stir again. Now I gotta pour this over this big ice cube. Now I just gotta add a black cherry, and screw it, I'm using both cherries. I love cherries in my old fashioned. Then a quick spray of orange oil to finish it up. All right, let's try this thing. That is Christmas in the glass. Cinnamon clove. The orange is there, a little bit of the cherry. The black pepper gives it a nice spice. The rye whiskey comes through. That's delicious. All right, so how do you get these delicious cocktails from Shaker and Spoon, crafted by award-winning mixologists? To get it, click the link below in the description and use the code MASHANDDRUM at checkout for $20 off your first box. That's right, $20 off your first box. Makes a great gift for you or for someone you love. Thanks to Shaker and Spoon for sponsoring the Mash and Drum. This is good. All right, so back in November 2021, Buffalo Trace announced that it would be dropping the word Junior from its highly sought after Stagg Junior brand, starting with batch 18, which we have right here. Stagg Junior was named because it was essentially the less mature version of the distillery's even more sought after release, George T. Stagg Bourbon from the Premium Antique Collection. So just like the Colonel Taylor Barrel Proof we just tried, Stagg is non-age stated, but said to be around 8-9 years old, so maybe a tad bit older than the Colonel Taylor. Rather than the 15-year-old George T. Stagg batch. Batch 18 is 131 proof on the dot. Retail on this about $80, but expect to see prices in the $400 to $500 range whenever you do see these laying around on the shelf somewhere. With the popularity of Stagg Junior, to me it made sense that Buffalo Trace would drop the Junior from the name. On the surface, it's a move to let people know that Stagg Junior didn't play second fiddle to anyone. It's as premium as all their other bourbons. On the other hand, I could see their marketing people smiling at all the hoarders who will seek out Stagg Junior bottles, and the demand and the prices skyrocket on those older batches. And yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened. All right, let's dive into this one. Wow, this one's coming off more savory to me rather than sweet. Like I'm waiting to get the cherry, and I'm waiting to get, you know, cherry or grape, or, you know, one of those notes that is familiar with me to Stagg Junior, or you know, from past batches. But This one's a little bit more on the herbal side, which is very interesting. I'm getting black pepper, but I'm getting a little bit more of like a rye characteristic. There is some sweet. I'm definitely getting the brown sugar and some really nice sweet oak on the nose as well. That big punch of vanilla cream is there. But I have to say, I think the cherry is kind of absent. I'm not really getting it on the nose on this one. Interesting. All right, let's give it a try. Stagg 18. Even on the palate, it's a little bit drier than other Stagg batches I've had, Stagg Junior batches. This is the first Stagg batch, so I could say Stagg Junior. But, no, I'm getting another sip of that. So this one, all the flavor is right here. It's right here. I call it the Pop Rocks effect. I'm getting all the tingliness and all the things you love in a good barrel-proof bourbon all happening right on the sides of my tongue. Everything is just kind of exploding. That Pop Rocks effect, everything is just kind of popping everywhere. And I'm not really feeling it here like I was with the Colonel E.H. Taylor barrel proof. This one is all sitting right here in the back of the palate, which I appreciate. I'm getting cocoa powder in this one. I think it's adding to a little bit of that drying effect to it. Cocoa powder, again, I feel like it feels like rye spice. Getting a little bit more rye spice, maybe a little more citrus coming through from that rye spice. But this isn't nearly as sweet as some of the other batches that I remember having. I'm still looking for really the cherry. I mean, I think it's faintly there. I'm digging this batch so far. It's different. It's different than, you know, most Stagg batches, Stagg Junior batches that you've tried. I like this one a lot. You know, normally I kind of know what to expect with Stagg Junior. I'm waiting for those, you know, that big punch of cherry, confectionate sugar, very, very sweet, very vanilla heavy. And while some of that is there, this one is just taking me to a little bit of a darker flavor profile, which I really like. I do wish it had a little bit more sweetness to it to balance out some of the dryness and the, I'm not going to say bitterness. It's not bitter, but there's a very dry aspect to this. I think the oak and that cocoa powder, the chocolate, the rye spice, a little bit of the citrus, it's all really kind of maybe taking over the sweetness a little bit. I mean, you could get some sweetness in here, but I'm just surprised at how much more tamed down on this the sweetness is of this batch. But I think people that chase these out and seek these out might be surprised at how different this is compared to some of the other. Like if you go back to Stagg Junior Batch 15, where that was like just a pure candy shop in a glass. It's just so different from this one. All right, I'm about to put this up against my favorite Stagg Junior batch of all time, and that is Batch 12. All right, my last bottle of Stagg Junior Batch 12, 132.3 proof. This is still my favorite batch of all time, but I have not done it against this new Batch 18. Stagg Junior versus Stagg. Let's see how it goes. All right, so just like I sort of thought, the Batch 12 is definitely sweeter on the nose compared to this Batch 18. The Batch 18 is getting into a darker, almost burnt caramel, cocoa. Again, more of like a rye spice aspect is coming out. God, the noses are actually pretty close. Let's see what Batch 12 is on the palate. I love this batch. Yeah, see, Batch 12 has this little bit. I think Batch 12 has some of the best parts of 18, but with a little bit more amped up sweetness, and that's what I'm looking for in the Batch 18. I also feel like Batch 12 comes off older, like there's some older whiskey in it. Now, I mean, I have no way to know that, but I think the sweetness with that really nice punch of oak, complexity, that's why I love that batch so much. All right, let's go back to the 18. Again, I still think it's missing a good punch of sweetness that you know and love from Buffalo Trace. That is, I don't know. There's just something missing to it. More vanilla starting to come out. Again, this might open up a little bit more too, to get a little bit more sweetness. I love the spice and that Pop Rocks effect you get with Batch 18. If this can open up more and get a little bit more of of a sweetness profile to balance out the cocoa, the dark oak, like the dark sweet oak profile that I'm getting in there, the rye spice, a little bit of that citrus. If that could come to the forefront with a little bit more sweetness, that batch 18 has a chance to be a really, really good batch. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this review for the Stagg Batch 18 and the Colonel Taylor Barrel Proof 2022. That's right, we went full Tater today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. Let me know if you guys have gotten either one of these, if you've been able to try them or what you think of them. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers. See you next time right here on The Mash and Drum. Damn.